Hey, welcome to A Cartoonist Guide to the Bible. I'm Steve Thomason, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I use the Logos Bible software to map out the Gospel of John. Now, this video is just a small sample of a longer video where I dive deep into it behind the scenes and you can see all of the steps. And if you want to get access to that longer video, I invite you to come on over to Cartoonist Bible Network and join the CB crew. Where you'll get behind the scenes access, exclusive material, and you'll actually be able to collaborate with me as we draw our way through the Gospel of John this year. For now, enjoy this sample video. So the purpose of this video is to show you the behind the scenes as I start diving into the Gospel of John, getting ready to do a cartoonist guide to John. Before I ever draw pictures, I study the text really closely. And so let me just show you what I've got going on. First of all, one of my favorite commentaries on the Gospel of John is written by Caroline Lewis, and you can see here is the citation for that. Now, I have worked through John visually one time before, and this was 4 years ago when the narrative lectionary was taking us through John. And it was during that time that I actually began this comic book style. So I don't have a complete version of John, and that's my goal for this time through. But I do have a lot of visuals that I've already created. So what I did is I went through and I put in all the visuals that I have. So this is kind of a visual overview of John through chapter 18 anyway. And then I have a little outline based on this. So we've got an introduction of John 1, and then what we call the book of signs. So there are 7 signs that Jesus gives that talk about who Jesus is, as well as 7 I ams. So this is one way to think about it. So what I'm doing in this note is just laying out different possible ways that people have outlined to this. And so this image is the Bible Project, which, you know, I love so much. So this is my first note. Got a few things kind of laying it out. So this is something that I do when I want to get the big picture view of a book. And so what I did, because we preached through the narrative lectionary, the first thing I did was I went through and I created a note that has the preaching texts from the narrative lectionary, and I color coded those in green. So I just took the time and I went through and I created a separate note for every pericope called for in the narrative lectionary. I did that first, and then what that did for me is it exposed the parts of the text of John that the narrative lectionary skips over. So then what I did is I went through and I found all of those gaps. Now I can scan through all of the Gospel of John, just go page by page, and I can see, oh man, they skipped a whole bunch of stuff here in chapter 5 and 6, and then we pick up in chapter 6 verse 35. And now of course the narrative lectionary can't preach every single text in the gospel, so it's important for me, if I'm doing the cartoonist guide to the Gospel of John, thinking about narrative lectionary preachers in mind, I want to know what's going to be included and what isn't. So that's the first step that I did. Now the next thing that I did is I went through, I created a new note that I call location and festival tracking. Let me make this a little bit wider. And this is now my first pass at just slowly analyzing the text for myself. So what I did is anytime John has Jesus go to a location, as you can see, it says the next day Jesus decided to go to Galilee. I went through, I highlighted it so that I could easily recognize, like, okay, here's a location. Anytime we see that there is a sign, you can see it, John actually tells us the first of his signs. And so this I highlighted in purple. The final thing that I'm doing in this pass through is the feasts, because I think that's what I've noticed as I've been reading through John is that all of Jesus' movements have to do with Jewish feasts and festivals. I also went through, and anywhere Jesus says I am, I highlighted it in blue. All right, so that's what I've done so far, and I hope this is helpful for you. I encourage you to dig into this, maybe do your own kind of study.